champions, welcome back to another episode of the Taboo Doctor. On today's episode, I am joined by Michelle, and we're going to be talking about her psoriasis skin journey. And it's really great to talk to her about this because psoriasis and skin conditions can sometimes be taboo in healthcare and also in Black health as well, because people sometimes feel, oh, what is that on your skin? What is going on there? So I'm really, really glad that she's joined us today to share her journey with us. Thank you for joining us, Michelle.
Thank you so much for reaching out and for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. So tell us a lot about yourself.
A lot. Okay. So Michelle is my name. I'm 25. I live in Nottingham. I have psoriasis and I've had it. I just tell people I've had it all my life because I got it when I was 7. So that's pretty much a large portion of my life. So I just say I've had it all my life, and I don't really know what else to say.
Okay, well, tell us more about you before we jump into psoriasis. So what do you do in Nottingham, or what do you do for fun? You were just telling me about your amazing new little kitty.
Yeah. Honestly, at the moment, for fun, all I'm doing is just spending so much time with the cat. Mm-hmm. Because at the moment I'm not working because I was shielding before, and then now I'm not really sure what's happening, so I'm still kind of out of work. Mm-hmm. So I just spend a lot of time with the cat. I go to my friends' houses quite a lot until they're asking me like, what are your plans for going back home? Are you staying or? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right here, I'm fine. But I do go back to my own place occasionally, but I'm just been pretty chilled out this year because of the virus. And everything.
Yeah. It has been a very strange time for a lot of people, and I think especially with shielding, with isolating, and even for people who are still working, whether they're working from home on a laptop or going into the workplace, a lot of the social systems that we've had to support ourselves and to support our mental health hasn't really been there. How have you found that, especially with having to shield? How have you found that whole process?
When they started speaking about the virus and stuff, I did not, as someone who's got a compromised immune system, you'd think I would be the first one to be like, oh guys, everyone. I didn't take it seriously at first. I was just thinking, there's been bird flu, swine flu, and I survived all of that, so it's fine. And luckily at the time, my mom, not luckily, she just broke her ankle, so she came to stay with me because I live in a flat, so there's no steps or anything. So in terms of like interaction and socializing, I felt okay because she was there. So even when I did start shielding, when I had to resign from my job, I she stayed with me, so we were together for quite a while. But then she did go back home, so it's like you said, it's been just so strange. Sometimes I wake up and I'm just in shock that this is how this year has been. It's just been really bizarre.
It has been. It's been very surreal.
And like what you said about people who are still working. So at the time, my boyfriend was still in work. He was still required to go to work, but I'm shielding. So that was another thing where it's like, I want to see you, but I don't want to catch anything. So it's just been it's been a hard year.
Yeah, it's been so surreal, so bizarre. It's taken its toll on all aspects of our lives, hasn't it? And I think it's definitely one for the record books, and for our generation as well. It's probably the only time that something like this is gonna happen.
Imagine telling someone a couple years from now that, oh yeah, we were in lockdown for almost a year. It's just like, how?
Yeah, it's so surreal. Sometimes I still don't believe that we're living through this as well.
And the things that have become like a norm for us now. I now just automatically know that, okay, if I'm leaving the house, where's my mask? I never had to think of any of that. Where's my sanitizer? Where are my gloves? Where's all my things? But that's just the new norm now.
It really is. Yeah, I've got 2 sets of masks just hanging next to the door on a little hook, so that if I leave the house, I take them out.
Grab it.
Yeah, so it's such a strange time. And you mentioned about having to shield and about your compromised immune system. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about that, for people who don't know what that means?
So because of the psoriasis, it's basically my immune system that is malfunctioning. So currently my immune system is weak anyway because of the psoriasis, and then the medication that I was on at the time suppressed my immune system even more, and that's why I had to my doctor told me that I should shield, because if I was to catch the virus, it would affect me much harsher than it would just someone who's in like perfect health. So yeah, shielding, just had to stay at home pretty much indoors, and just try to keep my immune system up, because I get ill pretty much all the time. I had to be always making sure I'm not, just drinking Lemsip just for the sake of it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Never know.
Oh wow. So tell us, Michelle, so you said you got diagnosed when you were a child, so you were quite young at the time. Do you remember much of that process, or much of that journey, in terms of the journey to diagnosis?
I remember bits and bobs, and then some of the gaps were filled by my mom, who obviously was in charge of like my care at the time. I do remember the first time I ever got a psoriasis patch. Well, at the time it was just a spot, which nobody thought anything of it. Even I didn't. I would keep scratching it, but it wouldn't go away, and it would still be itchy. But then, nobody thought anything bad, until that spot then eventually turned into like the psoriasis patch, the little plaque. And at that point, that's when concerns started to rise, like, oh, what's going on? Then, out of nowhere, the patch not that patch, all the patches just spread. So then it was all over my body at this point. And that's when, panic started to set in, because like I said, I was born in Zimbabwe, so back then nobody was really knowing about psoriasis or anything like that. So my mom has told me that a lot of family and relatives and family friends, because of culture and tradition in Zimbabwe, they wanted me to go the route of trying a lot of traditional and herbal medicines.
Wow.
We've gone to this tree and got this leaf. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? So I remember bits, and it's actually funny. There's a time when I was asking my mom, did I ever have to lay in a bathtub of something that was not comfortable for me until I cried? Because I remember that, but I don't remember is it a real memory or not. And that's when she confirmed it to me that it did happen. Somebody advised her to have me soak in a bathtub full of like lemons and lemon peels, and I don't know how, but she tried. And obviously the pain for me back then was just so unbearable that all I remember is that I was in pain.
Yeah.
So because the diagnosis came when I was so young, I didn't really have much understanding of what was happening, but I have very limited memories of certain things back then.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so interesting how our brain flashes back to so many memories, and sometimes we're not so able to patch them all together, especially when they're experiences that have been traumatic, because I can imagine having patches on your skin that you've been scratching, so some of them might have been broken or open, and then lying down in a bath full of lemon, it must have stung.
I can't feel the pain, but I can remember it. It's so strange that when my mom confirmed, I thought, I'm so glad I'm not going crazy, because I wasn't sure if that actually happened or if it's just my brain, making something that didn't happen.
Gosh, wow. So how did from listening to your mom's story in terms of going through the herbal roots. And that's something that, I think in African communities, we do a lot. And we even in educated communities, we still try to say, why don't you try this herb? Or why don't you try this juice? Or why don't you try this mixture? As opposed to saying, why don't you just go see a doctor and have a conversation about what is going on? So how did your mom then get to that point where a doctor then saw you and said, actually, this condition has a name and this is how we try to manage it?
She said that she just got to a point where she was no longer comfortable with trying these methods because of the pain or the discomfort. So she just thought, it's out of our hands now. We have to go and seek medical attention. And that's when, we finally are hearing this diagnosis. I'm like, psoriasis? Because back then we used to call it psoriasis because no one knew that the P is silent and all of that. It was just bizarre to find out all of this stuff. But she was saying that it was a relief because she finally knew, okay, this is the problem. Okay, we now have a problem and there's a solution. So you can go forward when you know what's going on. So I'm glad she finally, let go of the try to drink this or take that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that what you just said is so important as well, because when we're not sure about what is going on, when we then have a name, it gives it a sort of validation that what I'm experiencing is, first of all, it's not in my head. Second of all, it's not only me that is going through this. There's a community of people that are going through this as well. And even if there is no cure, at least I can identify what is going on and I know what the problem is. If you were to talk to mums who were in a similar situation as to where your mom was, because even here in the UK, there's still mums who in their community, something's wrong with their child or something's wrong with themselves, the aunties will say, oh no, you've not tried this, or you've not fed her this, or you've not done this. What would you say to them about actually saying, just put a pause on what the aunties are saying and see a doctor?
I think it's very hard to kind of give a straight answer because I'm not a parent to anybody. I don't know, people's parenting styles and all of that. But I think the only thing that I would be able to do if I was in a situation where I could speak with moms is to just tell them what I've experienced and hope that that can make them think of a different route. Because whilst I'm not saying, herbs don't work or all these, some do, but sometimes you're causing more harm than good. So I think the only thing I would be able to do is just share my story and just hope for the best. Because even though I went through all of that, I don't feel like it's really affected me or made me look at my mom differently or think, why I never had those thoughts of why did you do that? Because I know she tried to
your best interest.
It was in my best interest, and she was the only person. Even now, I'm 25, and my mom still comes to my doctor's appointments. She's like, I'm coming.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I've got work cancelled now. Coming. So I think I would just share my story and hope that it helps.
Yeah, definitely. And I think telling stories really, really helps. And people are so much better able to identify with stories as opposed to a lecture, as opposed to telling them what to do as well. So tell us, for people who don't know, what is psoriasis and how does it affect you?
The way I define it, I just define it as my immune system just plotting against me. That's usually the way that if someone asks, it's the quickest way I can kind of say it without having to get technical. But it's my immune system attacking healthy skin cells, basically. So, regular, I don't like saying I don't know the word to replace. I usually say regular or normal. I don't like to say that because I'm not saying I'm not regular or normal, but the healthier person, I'll say, their skin reproduces after a month or whatever, but mine just reproduces way quicker than the average person. So some people's skin just reproduces and stuff within like 28 days, but mine sometimes can do it overnight, which is why then, you know, the patches are showing up on my skin. Yeah. And did you say how it affects me?
Yeah.
Oh. It affects obviously a lot of things. It's like, you know, my own physical image of myself. So that's always on my mind. There's what it's doing to me, like mentally. I would say currently I'm at peace with it. I'm okay with it. I know it's there. It's not going anywhere. I've tried different medications, and I'm okay with it. But sometimes, in terms of like self-esteem, I do look at myself differently sometimes. Or before lockdown, let's say, when my friends will say, "Oh, let's go out to this place," I would just have such a nightmare trying to figure out what can I wear that doesn't show my skin, or what can I wear that doesn't show too much. Or I always used to say to my friends, well, in the club, the lights will be off, right? So no one will see me. It's like always having to anticipate what someone might say or how they might look at me, which I've been fortunate. I've not really ever had any like bad negative comments face to face. But I think because of the psoriasis now, it's made me a little bit paranoid that I always think somebody's looking at me, or okay, even if someone is looking at me, I would never think, oh, maybe they're looking at me because they like my shoes. I'll think it's my skin. That's it. There's nothing else that they could be looking at. And also the psoriasis is on my scalp as well. And it has like affected my hairline. Some parts of my hair has fallen out, which, you know, as a woman, it's a bit it's a bit hard. That's one thing I'm currently like struggling with quite a bit, because I like to have my natural hair out. I like to do different styles, but I feel like now I'm being, you know, I have no choice but to have my wig on, because if someone looks at me, I just think, oh no, they've seen my hairline. Oh, like how can someone think I'm attractive when, you know, hair's missing and I've got patches everywhere. So it definitely affects the way that I look at myself and the way I look at others as well, because I'm always expecting or waiting for someone to like judge me or say something, and that's never happened. So I don't know why I keep thinking it's going to happen. So I think it messes with your head quite a lot.
Yeah, and you know what you said is so true though, because I think as women, in as much as we try to talk about, oh no, everybody has to be strong, but everybody still has an insecurity somewhere. You know, especially with our appearance and especially as a Black woman as well, our hair is so important.
Oh, don't get me started. It is. And, you know, I got to a stage finally where I was like, you know what? I love my natural hair. I love these curls. I love how thick it's got. And I was really dedicated to, you know, I had all these oils and this and that. And now I just think, well, there's no point, you know, making an effort to try and look after my hair when the front portion is not really there, which has led me a few times to shaving my hair bald, because I figured if there's no hair on my head, no one will notice that there was a patch somewhere. So that's kind of the way I try to think of it in my head, that, you know, it's okay, you still look okay bald, I suppose. But yeah, no, having psoriasis is like, I myself used to just think of it as, yeah, I've just got a skin condition, full stop. But it's so much more than that. It's not just, you know, self-esteem and body confidence and all of that. It's also the actual effects of it. I'm ill all the time. My friends, every time I say, oh, I've got this, they're like, oh, again. I'm like, yeah. So it's like my health is always compromised. You know, it's just, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. And, you know, it sounds like you've been on quite a bit of a journey with your psoriasis as well. And And what you were saying about people not knowing what it was at the beginning when you were back in Zimbabwe, it does happen here, even in the UK, especially on black skin, because it sometimes looks different. And so if your doctor, even sometimes your dermatologist, is not so familiar with what it looks like on black skin, the time from your presentation to your final diagnosis can sometimes be delayed. And you said that you've been on quite a few immunosuppressants. How did you get to that point in terms of realizing that maybe the creams and the steroids were not as effective, and then having to go onto tablets? And how did that feel for you?
So pretty much, at age 7, I was diagnosed in Zimbabwe, and not long after the diagnosis, maybe a year afterwards, my family then moved here to the UK, which was good that I got that diagnosis beforehand, because when I got here, it was just signing up with the GP, stating whatever health issues I've got, and then they just took my care on from there. So, they started me, first I started with light treatment when I was in primary school, and that was really good because my skin was great, clear, fine. But, as soon as the light treatment stopped, I had to be on the creams. So I was on quite a few ointments and steroid creams over the years, and then my skin just got to a point where it was no longer reacting to anything anymore. Everything that was prescribed wasn't working anymore. And someone recommended this cream to my mom from the hair shop. And when she said that to me, I just thought, are you going back to your old ways?
Oh, yeah.
You're going back. And then, someone told her about this cream from the hair shop, and I bought it and I tried it, and it worked. And I was just like, okay. What's this cream called? It was called Etin, Etin. So it was, it got rid of the psoriasis patches, but then it started to lighten my skin. So a lot of people were asking, have you been bleaching? Oh, I was like, no, I'd never do that. No. And then for some reason, every hair shop just discontinued this cream. Right. It was just not being sold anymore. So that after that point, that's when I reached probably my only breaking point with my skin, because it was all over. It was everywhere. The things being prescribed by the doctors, they were not working anymore. So then went to the GP, and I just had a breakdown. I just said, listen, is there nothing else? Can't I go back to light treatment, or what can I do? That's when they started talking about the oral medication, and then they referred me to dermatology, who then took over my care. And I've been on 2 immunosuppressants. I've been on cyclosporine and methotrexate, and they're the only 2 immunosuppressants that I've had so far. Yeah. And it, being at your age and having to be on immunosuppressants is a lot. And where we're having some conversations on the podcast recently, talking about contraception and talking about having to take just one pill every day, and just remembering to take one pill every single day, and how difficult that really is. How have you found that in terms of taking immunosuppressants, or even taking something like methotrexate and then having to then take folic acid as well on another day? How have you found that? Always forgot to take my folic acid, and I didn't mind so much the methotrexate because it was just once a week on the same day every week, so that was okay. But in terms of the folic acid, I think I only took it if my mom reminded me to do it. But with the cyclosporine, I definitely struggled with that, because I was taking it twice a day, morning and night, every day, and that was hectic trying to remember, because my mom also, she's got me on all these other things. Make sure you've got your vitamin D, make sure you've got that. So I had so much stuff to take at the same time that I did fall off a little bit. Sometimes I would miss, the days, or the methotrexate day, or I would skip a day with the cyclosporine as well. So it was hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been on any of the medications since the beginning of the year. I actually made the decision to stop taking. I was on cyclosporin in January. I made the decision to not take them anymore for now.
Okay. And from not taking them, how have you found that your skin has reacted?
See, that is the thing that has been so shocking for me and my dermatologist. Given everything that's happened this year, and with the corona, and with me, my psoriasis it flares up quite a lot when I'm stressed, and I stress so easily. So to say I've not been on medication pretty much almost all year, my skin is not doing that bad. So I'm a bit confused. I don't know why it's happening, but I'm not gonna ask questions. I'll just let it happen. But yeah, it's just better for me at the moment because of the side effects of these medications. It was just too much for me to cope with.
Yeah, tell us a bit about that, about the side effects of those medications, because sometimes we focus a bit on sort of the frequency of infection, which you'd mentioned as well in terms of coming down with quite a lot of infection. But what other side effects were you suffering as a result of the medications that you were taking?
So I started on cyclosporin first, and I remember when my dermatologist was talking about it, the one thing she said that stood out was that, you might be nauseous, but it should settle after, the drug is used to your body, you're used to it. But that was one of the major side effects for me. I didn't just feel a little bit sick. I felt sick the whole day, every day. And I would be throwing up as well, even if I'm doing all these things to like counteract the side effects. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
But, the first time I took cyclosporin, it was only for 6 months. So I did stick out the 6 months because I just wanted clear skin so bad. I said, I will deal with the sickness. But with cyclosporin, for me, that is the major side effect, and also the same reason why I stopped taking it this year, because I was on cyclosporin, then methotrexate, then back on the cyclosporin. And with the methotrexate, the side effects for me were mouth ulcers, of which, if you have one mouth ulcer, it's like, okay, it's annoying, but you can get on with your day-to-day tasks. But for me, I would have maybe 5, 6 at the same time. Then because there's so many, they will grow and merge into one big one, and couldn't eat, I couldn't speak, I couldn't go to work, I couldn't do anything. It was such a miserable time. And I just thought, is it worth having clear skin? Is this worth it just so that I can have clear skin? And for me right now, it's not.
And I mean, that is quite a brave decision in terms of, taking charge of your own health, and also perhaps also having a supportive dermatologist as well, who is saying, okay, let's monitor and see how things get on. And I think that is amazing, having, a supportive team, on your side as well. That sounds really great. And the thing with psoriasis, especially on dark skin, is that if you're having the silvery plaques on your skin, especially on, external surfaces, and you did allude to it as well in terms of maybe going clubbing and saying, okay, it's going to be dark, nobody's going to see. But if it's in the summer, you might not be able to wear the kind of clothes that you want to wear. So what would you say to people about being sensitive to the fact that someone else is going through something and you don't always have to pry in and invade their privacy?
I think it's just the thing of, if it was your family member and they're sat in McDonald's and someone just says, oh my God, what's wrong with her, or what's wrong with him? How would that make them feel?
Yeah.
I think this, like, this time that we live in, it's easy for people to want to always have an opinion and have that opinion heard. But sometimes just take a step back and think, okay, if this was my sister or my brother, or even if it was me, how would I feel?
Yeah.
Because nobody would like someone to walk up to them and say, oh, what's that on your face? Or And the only time I've had those experiences with children, which is like, okay, that's the children. But as an adult, why do you feel comfortable to, make people feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
I think it's just a thing of just looking inwards at yourself and how would you approach this situation if it was the other way around?
Yeah.
And then, take it from there.
Yeah, definitely. Putting yourself in the other person's shoes is so important.
Sometimes, your first thought is, and I always have to kind of remind myself that everyone is on their own paths and journeys. You don't know what's going on. It's not your place to want to know what's going on with something. Why do you want to know that? So I think me having this condition has helped me to look at the world a little bit differently. When I see people, I just continue on with my business, and you don't need to look at somebody for a long time until it's noticeable that you're looking.
Yeah, definitely. And what about to women, especially to maybe a young Black lady who is struggling with scalp psoriasis and having issues with her hair or her skin and her presentation in public? What would you say to her about this blow to her self-esteem?
I would say that it definitely takes time, because for me to reach where I am now, it's only been maybe the past 4 years or 3 years that I've said, okay, I'm going to start doing things that scare me. So from 7 to about 3 years ago, that was a long process for me to come to terms with it. I think it takes time. Nobody with any visible difference is just going to wake up tomorrow and put on a bikini and walk down the road. It's a process, and you just have to just roll with the punches, because it's not every day that I think, oh my gosh, I look terrible, my hairline. Sometimes I look in the mirror, I'm like, wow, yeah, actually, you're cute. You're
awesome. Yay!
Yeah. So it's not every single day that is going to be a bad day. It's just, I just try to not let the bad days keep me down for too long, and not to wallow in it for too long. So I would just say, it's anyone who's asked me, I just say that it's a process. I did not just wake up and be like, yeah, I'm gonna start posting my skin on Instagram. That it's a process, and when the time is right, you will do whatever feels right for themselves. That's pretty much what I'd say.
Yeah, that is amazing. And what about to friends who are supporting a friend or a family member who has psoriasis or is on immunosuppressants as well, especially at this time in COVID, when some of them might be shielding or isolating? What advice would you give to friends and family to be supportive and to go the extra mile to make sure that their loved ones are safe?
I would say that the most important thing is for friends and family to actually educate themselves on whatever is going on. For you to be able to tackle something, you've got to understand it. So I think first things is to understand, why my friend not want to come out today, or it's not always a thing of taking things personally, or she didn't come clubbing, because it's not always that. You have to think about, they've got this whole situation that they're dealing with. So I think once you've educated yourself and you know what's what, and these are the symptoms, or this could happen, I think it helps you it helps your friends to understand you better, because even though my friends and family, they're very well aware of everything, they will never understand it ever, because they're not in my situation. But making that effort to try is it makes you, it's quite empowering actually. You feel like, okay, I might be alone in that I'm the one who has this, but I've got all these people behind me who are willing to take part. And just, I think, showing interest, educating yourself, showing genuine interest. Sometimes my friend would just ask, how did your appointment go? Or what did they say? Or how? And I'm just, you actually want to know how my appointment went? Okay, that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, just showing an interest, really. Go on Google, search, what does this mean? and it really goes such a long way.
That is really important. And I think, having friends that are showing an interest in the things that are affecting you, is really important, so that your friends are not just for the good times, but they're also for the in between. For the in between, which is where life really happens, isn't it? It's not always in the parties and the happy times. It's actually in the lows and the day-to-day and the day-to-day living as well. And so, as we round up, Michelle, what would you want people to know about psoriasis, and how would you say people can also, who are living with psoriasis, can be empowered or take charge of certain aspects of their healthcare? Because sometimes, when you have this kind of condition, you can sometimes feel, out of control, that you don't have the power, because it can affect your joints, it can affect your nails. There's so many ways that psoriasis can affect you and make you feel as though you're not the one in the driving seat. Is there any way that someone who is living with psoriasis can try to get some of that power back?
I would say whatever it is that you love to do or you're passionate about, do it. Don't not do it because, oh, I have this. And I'm saying that because when I was in sixth form, I really, really, really wanted to model so bad. I was telling my parents I really wanted to be a model, and they were helping me find agencies and all these things. But, that seed of doubt of, oh, but I've got psoriasis, I've got my patches are doing this, sometimes I'm ill, sometimes my joints, sometimes, all of those things pretty much stopped me from many opportunities. There's many things that I've been asked to be a part of, but because of my condition, I always said, I can't do it. They would never, people would never accept someone who looks like that. And, what I would say is, whatever it is you're passionate about, don't lose that passion because of this condition. Like, psoriasis is not your life. It's just part of it. It's not, it's not, hey, my name is Michelle and I've got psoriasis, full stop. There's so much more that's in a person. So definitely just don't let it hold you back from doing anything. And I'm so mad at myself that I realized this now. I wish I would have, figured it out a bit earlier and pursued other things. But that's just the way life works. Not everything goes, the way you want it to. But psoriasis is not who you are. It's just, a very small part of you. There's so much more.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. And where can our listeners find you online?
You can find me on Instagram, it's Lord Mitch, and Twitter as well, Lord Mitch, and YouTube as well, Lord Mitch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your story with us. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really had fun because I like to talk. I can talk for a long time, so this has been great.
Oh, thank you. That was fantastic.